Talking all about love. Well, they treated you like a dog, and you were the one who had made it so clear all those years ago. Talking all about
Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of the Pop Culture Yearbook. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am the Real Manos.
Manos, we are back in our time machine. We're going back in time. This time we're going quite a bit farther back than we did last time. Last time we went to 1992. What is the year we're going to this time, Manos?
Well, we're taking the Wayback Machine to 1977.
Yes, indeed we are. It was, of course, the year that a little film that nobody went to see came out called Star Wars. Apple introduced their Apple II that year. It was the year of the big New York blackout. It was the year that Philip K. Dick put out A Scanner Darkly. A really big year for science fiction. Not only that, but Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out that year. And that was the year of Saturday Night Fever. Huge year for all kinds of things.
Yeah, I believe that's when Rocky Horror Picture Show really started taking off.
Yeah.
At the Waverly Theater, where it had initially bombed, and they were starting to show it as just a late show, and it just picked up in that neighborhood, where people just started going to see it over and over again and making a party out of it. And it's been running somewhere in the world ever since.
Well, Manos, what did you choose to talk about from the year 1977?
Well, I decided to pick a film that when I was a child in 1977, I was 6, my parents took me to see a film that featured a roguish hero, a damsel in distress dressed all in white, a charismatic villain, and it was such a successful film, it was the beginning of a well-known trilogy. And of course, I am talking about Smokey and the Bandit. I love this film. It was kind of the zenith of the car chase film, which was a big kind of genre in the 70s.
Right.
And this film, of course, stars Burt Reynolds, Sally Field, Jackie Gleason, Jerry Reed, Pat McCormick, who was a character actor and a writer. He was working on The Tonight Show at the time. Paul Williams, who eventually became the voice of the Penguin, and he was a pop star as well. To make a long story short, or a short story even shorter, Smokey and the Bandit is about these two truckers played by Burt Reynolds and Jerry Reed as Bandit and Cletus. And they're hired by two rich guys, two brothers, known as Big Enos and Little Enos. And they're going to have a big celebration in Georgia, and they want Coors beer. Because they really like Coors beer at the celebration. So they want him to take a truck filled with Coors beer from Texas to Georgia in like 28 hours or something like that. The problem is, at the time in the 1970s, it was illegal to take Coors beer across I think east of the Mississippi or something like that. It was considered bootlegging, which was weird. Now it's not an issue. But back then it was. So
It'd be an odd movie to remake, wouldn't it?
It would be a difficult film to remake. They'd have to do something new. But anyway, on the way, well, see, the Bandit comes up with this idea of creating a sort of decoy car. So he would be in this black Trans Am, this beautiful 1977 Firebird Trans Am, and he would get speed, and people would cops would pay attention to him and ignore this truck coming through driven by Jerry Reed. On the way, they run into Sally Field, who is playing, I think her name is Carrie, and she is running away from an arranged marriage where she was supposed to marry this incredibly stupid son of a sheriff in Texas, played by Jackie Gleason, Buford T. Justice. And then, of course, the whole...
I always thought that name was great.
Isn't that great? And this is probably his last great character, actually. And what's interesting is this character is a really awful person. I mean, he's even kind of racist, and he is the man. He is a fairly unpleasant guy, but he just sells this character so well. And you just kind of laugh with him all the way through this film. And the thing I think about when I think about Smokey and the Bandit, the car chase films were, by the way, this is directed by Hal Needham, his debut film. He made a whole bunch of other films that were horrible after this. He made, although he made two more good ones. He made Hooper and The Villain with Kurt Douglas and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then after that, everything he's made is horrible. But this was a really entertaining film. And car chase films were... I was thinking about this when we were preparing the video. Car chase films were kind of a symptom of sort of the breakdown and distrust of society, where I think it started maybe in the civil rights movement, where people started to look at what the police were doing during those protests. Because if you notice in all these car chase films, the villains are the police. Society is not to be trusted. And, they're creating these rules to keep you down. So it's these roguish heroes driving fast that are the heroes of these films. And there's some dark films like Dirty Mary and Crazy Larry and Vanishing Point. And then there are the more jokey ones, like the Ron Howard films of Eat My Dust and Smokey and the Bandit. And this definitely was a trend that eventually kind of petered out in the 80s. But, oh boy, is this film is still entertaining. I've been watching it a couple times recently in the last couple of years. And it's not one of those films where you enjoy it as a kid and is horrible now. It's still very funny, and there's the rapport between Burt Reynolds and Sally Field is just really good. And I don't know, and ever since then I've been in love with Firebird Trans Ams too. It's just 1977 black Trans Am is the coolest car ever.
Well, Manos, I also chose a film, and I chose a film that before now, I'm sorry to say, I had never seen before. And I always meant to, and I always wanted to see this, and I decided to take this opportunity to watch George Burns' great comedy, Oh, God.
With John Denver.
With John Denver. Have you ever seen this movie?
I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
I thought it was great. George Burns, if you don't know, was 100 years old when he died.
Yeah.
And he made it all the way to 1996. He was born in 1896, and so he would have been 81 years old when he made this movie in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically, the whole idea of the movie is just taking the idea of God, turning it on its head, and making God like this, like friendly, really simple, like cute old man who just wants people to pay attention to him. And it's really clever, it's really charming, and it's one of the more subtle comedies I've ever seen. Like there are obvious things you would expect it to do that it doesn't do, and that's what's so good and what's so charming about it. It's not Bruce Almighty, which I feel like is kind of a ripoff of this movie in a lot of ways.
And you're subtle.
No, it's not, and I mean, it's fun in its own way. But what's cool about this is it's not a special effects movie, and like you would expect, like when you're gonna bring God on screen, and even with him as like this this old man with a fisherman's hat, you'd expect some special effects. There aren't really any, and the couple of things they do when they show him like disappear or something, they're really almost like cheesy kinds of effects, but it's cool because it's not an effects picture. And I was surprised how good John Denver was in it, because I didn't even realize he was an actor. Like, I had no idea he ever acted anything. And he plays he's actually like the main character, and he plays an assistant supermarket manager. And George Burns, playing God, comes to him and says that he wants John. Well, John Denver's not playing himself; he's playing a guy named Jerry. But and he's like John Denver, I want you to go out and spread my word. And he's like, what's your word? And basically, his whole thing is just I want you to tell people that it can work if we want it to. And like that's the whole message of the movie. And the whole thing is really like it's really minimalistic because most of it is just this long conversation. And there's plot and story, but most of it is a long conversation about various philosophies with God. The biggest one being the question of free will. And it's really fun how the idea of free will is played with in a comedic way because Jerry and other people will say things like, well, if this is God that Jerry keeps talking to, like what we want to know is why doesn't he just make everything better? And he's like, well, no, that's your job. I made the world for you to do things with, so like it's not my problem. You know what I mean? Deal with it yourself. And I love that. It's hilarious. And I think maybe one of the greatest parts is when God finds, because he won't reveal himself to people usually, and he just chose. And his reason, by the way, for choosing Jerry is because Jerry says, "Why me?" and he says, "Why not you?" And like that's his whole reason. And there's a scene toward the end where Jerry is being put on trial, and he's acting as his own lawyer, and he decides to put God on the stand, and he doesn't expect God to show up, but his whole point is that people can't completely not believe him because it's obvious that everyone, even for a split second, wonders if maybe God will show up because this has gone so far that people are starting to kind of buy into it a little bit. And God actually does show up, which was really cool because I didn't expect that. And God walks in and they swear him in, and he says, "So help me." I just thought that was great. But anyway, it's a really refreshing comedy. It's quite funny. It spawned 2 sequels, which I haven't seen yet, but I'm planning to see. And I don't know, George Burns was just one of the greatest comedians who ever lived. He's brilliant, and he spawned a lot of comedy that came after him, obviously. And it's really it had to have been interesting to be such a revered person and live as long as he did, because like he was a classic while he was still alive. Like it's got to be a weird way to live. But anyway, so I don't know. I want to highly recommend that for anybody who's never watched it, and it is currently streaming on Netflix, which is where I watched it. So
that's right. And I still recommend Smokey and the Bandit. Don't catch their sequels. They're not very good.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know about the old God sequels. Although I looked at a couple reviews, and apparently they're both still pretty cool. So
they're not bad. They're not bad.
I think in the third one he plays both God and the devil.
That's true. Yes. In Ted Wass is in it as well, an actor from Soap, who's also doing Soap from 1977.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I almost talked about Soap for this. For this episode.
I've seen that actually. It is a huge year. Soap was a funny show. We're all out of time, Manos. So we're going to come back to the present. But in 2 weeks, we're going to take our time machine back to another year. And Manos, where will we be going then?
I believe we're going to 1984.
Indeed, we're going to the year that Captain Logan was born. We're going to 1984.
Big Brother is watching.
Well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching the Pop Culture Yearbook. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am the Real Manos.
We'll see you next time.